Hello guys and welcome. So in this one tutorial we're going to talk about how to make a curtain for like an interior environment. Okay. Now some of the times we just use N-Class to do it, but it does have some limitations, and if we want to make something a little bit more complicated, it's not really that capable because it's actually a pretty old system. If you go search like N-Class, it's been there for the longest time. I believe it's from Maya 2008 or '09, around that versions, and that's when it came out. And I don't really see they ever advertising on improving it at all. So I assume it never got improved in the last 10 years. So you're using a pretty old system. And Maya is not the best when it comes to VFX in general. It falls far behind. Like there are a bunch of softwares like Houdini that should do much better. But this time we're gonna learn use Marvelous to do that real quick. Okay, so to start with, we're gonna go create the top bar or the pole, whatever do you want to call it. First, so I'm gonna create a cylinder, right, and make it big enough and long enough, of course. Make sure that you're using real world unit. Okay, and you should have if you are already doing rendering, because for any modern renderer, they do require you to have the proper unit and size for your objects, so that way the calculation is more accurate because you're using physically correct dimensions. Okay, so if that's true, then you just have to match it properly. All right, so I'm gonna go change the size. You want to make it thick enough so that there is no clipping when you're simulating. And also one other very important thing is that you have to have enough subdivision along the height. So I'm gonna try to drag that up until my model is kind of like dense enough. Okay, so this is gonna be the simulation model. Okay, so I'm gonna get this guy out, file, export, selection, and let me call it bar. Okay, and then I'm gonna change the format to obj. Should be actually just fun. Copy the directory, that's my project folder, and export selection. Now back here to Marvelous, I'm gonna go for file, import obj. Okay, and then go there and grab the bar and then open it. Okay, now this unit is gonna be the same as the unit setup you have in Maya. So if you go check Maya's preferences, we look for the settings and then unit, you can see it's centimeters. So make sure that you use the same format over here. And you open it, you load it as avatar so that it's colliding with the fabric you created, and that should be everything. So go ahead and hit OK. All right, and then that's gonna ask that warning is talking about like the arrangement point that doesn't really needs us to do, because that's specifically for character. Okay, so now we have our bar here and we can start creating our fabric. And in here I'm gonna go choose rectangular and just drag it out, something like this. Okay, to make it there, and then this is drag it up and then click on the model and rotate it. If yours is not having the same gizmo I'm having, so what you want to do is make sure that you go to preferences, gizmo, and use local coordinate. Underneath setting, user settings, you can go to the view control and make sure that it's Maya so that it's familiar. And then user interfaces, unit system is also centimeter. That should be something that you may want to change also. Anyway, so let me go ahead and rotate this guy so that it's kind of like lying on top. You can hit escape to get rid of that gizmo, because you can basically click and drag to move this around. I feel like that's more convenient. All right, I'm gonna go back here to the 2D view. The navigation here is like, this is like the UV editor, and this is like Maya's viewport, so you shouldn't feel anything different. And I'm gonna go use this transform pattern tool, grab it, and double click it on the dot in the center to make sure that when I scale things up, that's gonna be the pivot. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is make it just basically a bit longer. Maybe too long. You know, I think I need 2 pair of those guys, so maybe that should be how long it is, and it's gonna be half of it. Okay, so somewhere over there. And then I can hit space to simulate. You can see it hangs on top. Okay, now I feel like it's not long enough, so let me again hit this button or A button on the keyboard and double click here and just drag it so that it's longer, and then space to simulate one more time. You can see it's basically hanging over there. And then I'm gonna go sew those 2 bottom together by hit this N button as the segment sewing, and then click on the top. You can also do that in the 3D view, and then the bottom here. Yeah, that's one way you're sewing them together. And you can also do this, click here, and that's sewed together already. Make sure that the lines are not crossing. Okay, if your lines is crossing like this, that's because you're sewing this corner to the other corner. You can see that's actually a line to tell you what orientation you're sewing. If you got this wrong result, you can hit Control B right away to fix it. All right, and then space to simulate. Okay, so I have the top part done here. It's holding there nicely. All right, and then I just need to create the bottom piece, and that's gonna be another square. So let me go do that real quick. All right, and then I'm gonna drag it up and rotate it. Okay, now this time, because in the default settings, Mautic Designer has the ground to, you know, to collide with. Okay, you can either choose to do that or not. Okay, in this case, maybe I want it. Let's see, I'm gonna make it shorter in this time. So hit Z button. That's gonna be this tool here called Edit Pattern. This is basically the component editing mode. So you can go grab the bottom line and just drag it up. Okay, so that it's a little shorter. Okay, I can extend it later on if I wanted to. Okay, and then I can go back to the move here in 3D view, just drag it over to the bottom of my previous fabric. And then let me hit N button to sew this one to this one. Okay, so that way they're sewed together. And I can hit space to simulate one more time. You can see now the pattern is hanging like below the holder we were creating earlier. All right, cool. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the selection, which is Q button on the keyboard. And what I can do now is basically shifting it over by dragging the garment. Okay. Now you want to be careful because you could actually have some clipping result if you're not having enough resolution, or if this is too tight. So that's why I'm making it big here. Right now we have this curtain like rolled over like that. Okay, I think that's good enough. All right. You can also, of course, drag anything in the middle. That's the power of using Marvelous, because it does give you the flexibility to tweak it in whatever shape you want in an interactive way, right? Cool. So now if I wanted to say, okay, I want to kind of like hold this guy, hold this bottom part, and I can, so that there's kind of like a strand holding it over. What I can do is I can hit W, holding down W and click here to add a pin. You can see what it does is basically creating like a orange kind of like pin here. And then what I can do is, while I'm simulating, which is when this button is toggled down, and we can just drag that pin really carefully. Because when you drag it, it basically moves, and because it's pinned there, so that part is basically a constant transformation. So what you can do is you can drag it over to tell it to basically shifting over, so that way we're mimicking that effect. Okay. Now of course you can make a model, and you can use that model to do this also if that's what you wanted to do. Okay. I'm gonna try to hang everything here. Okay. Cool. All right. Now, if I want to make it longer, I can basically go to the segment edit pattern here, right? The edit pattern tool, which is Z button on the keyboard. You can grab this bottom line and holding down Shift and drag it down. Oh, let me stop the simulation when we were doing that to extend that. Okay. Now space to simulate one more time. You can see that part got recalculated. And the good thing is it's able to recognize there's a ground down there. So if you do have the ground, it's going to collide with it. Okay. Okay, let me give it some help so that it resolves itself faster. Okay, you can see the ground is basically holding it so that it's not really dripping down all the way anymore because of that reason. Okay. All right, so you just drag this around to help it to resolve the conflictions it's having. So that way we're having this guy over here. Okay, you can see now that pinning is not working anymore because those things are poking through. So let me Control W to disable that so that I can make everyone go back. Okay, we could go for a different approach. So I'm gonna try to do this in Maya. Back here in Maya, I'm gonna go try to create a little model for that. So I'm gonna go create a Nebris as not Nebris, polygon torus. Okay, and then I'm gonna try to move it over there, make it big. All right, just drag it over here. Okay, and then I'm gonna try to change it. So I'm gonna go to the polytorus. I'm gonna change the section radius so it's smaller on the radius, but you want to keep a proper size on the thickness part, the radius part, so that way the section radius part, so that it's not too thin to when you're calculating. Maybe it will clip through if it's too thin, basically. And then what I can do is can go to the face mode on this guy, of course. So let me grab this guy, Control 1, and then I'm gonna go to face mode and then just grab these faces and simply delete. So that way I have this little holder here, I can make it thinner. Okay, and let me also double click here on this loop and do a extrude edge, and then do a merge to center, basically to close that hole. Okay, so I have this little holder now, and I can use this to do that collision for me. So I'm gonna go for File, Export Selection, and this is gonna be the curtain holder, maybe. All right, now back here to Modelers, I can go stop the simulation, File, Import. And this time we're gonna import add object, and then we can choose that curtain holder and open it. Okay. Now this time we're gonna add it, right? It's load as avatar now, and the same setting as before, and hit OK. Now we have our piece added over here. Okay. So now let me do a simulation, and then I can grab this guy and then try to move it inwards. You can see what it does is basically doing the calculation, right? Again, it's super interactive, so you can do a lot of cool things with it to basically get the result you want. Okay, you can import a tabletop, and you can simulate class or a whole bed, and you can simulate your sheet or whatever you want to simulate here instead of Modelers. Okay, so that's one piece. All right, so we can further decorate this guy. For example, if I want to have some more decoration on the top, I could do that. So just need to go grab another square. Maybe I can even let's just create a new one. We could copy paste this one actually, but I think that's let's do that. Control C, Control V to copy paste. So we got a copy of it. Okay. And that copy will be having exactly the same shape over here, but I don't want it to be that long anymore. So let me hit Z button and just drag it over while holding on Shift to drag the bottom line over to the top. All right. And then I'm gonna drag this guy over to the front of the garment in this case. Now here comes to some trick we can do, because we already simulated this piece and the top piece. I don't think I need to change them for any particular reason. So I'm gonna Control K to freeze these guys, and then I can hit N button and sew this one to that line one more time. Okay, and then space to simulate. What is happening here is that it's gonna just simulate that part, and the other parts will just be considered as a solid geometry. Okay, it will have all the collisions. The blue part will have all the collisions and sewing, but it's not gonna do anything more than that. So let me go back here and maybe make this guy even shorter. Okay, do one more simulation. All right. Now let me grab this guy, Control C, Control V to copy paste to have another copy, but this time I'm gonna make it longer. So let me hit A and double click here on the point in the middle. I'm gonna just drag it so that it's longer here, and then drag it out. And again, this time this one is also okay. So I'm gonna Control K to freeze this guy also, and then hit N button to sew that to that. And the reason I'm making it longer is because I want to have this cool, like really high frequency smaller folding happening over there, so longer fabric will do that. So now if I do simulation, you can see now that part will be automatically dragged over there. Okay, and you can see it's already forming a whole lot more wrinkles. Okay, all right, so this kind of things is really hard to do in Maya because the N-Class just does not allow you to do all those cool interactive things. Yeah, so maybe from what I can see now, this guy is too short, too long, so I'm gonna drag it so that it's thinner. All right, cool. Now I can go grab all these three things I'm freezing now, Control K to unfreeze it, and then everything will simulate together, and we're getting our final result for this curtain. Okay. All right, I think I can drag this guy down a bit. Okay, be careful. You don't want it to drag it for too fast because it's also considering like timing when you drag things. So if you drag it too fast, that means that thing is moving really fast, and that's gonna cause something maybe you don't want it to see. All right, so maybe I can drag it over to help it a little bit. Okay, so when that is done, then it's time that we get this thing back to Maya. The UV will be exactly like this, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, and what you just need to do is just grab those pieces, and you can take a look at the poly wireframe by going to this little icon here, and you choose the mesh, and you can take a look at the wireframe. You can see it's all triangles, so if you don't like that, it should be rendering just fine actually, but if you don't like that triangle, you should be able to convert it into polygon. But just right clicking on it, and there is a quadrangulate, and that's going to convert this guy into quads. Keep in mind that this is going to take some time, so be patient and don't do anything crazy. Like if you keep clicking and it doesn't respond, maybe it will freeze and crash, so give it some time to do that calculation. All right, let me pause the video. Okay, now it's done. You can see now it's all quads. It's not perfect, but for rendering a curtain in a high resolution rendering pipeline, this is totally acceptable. So I'm gonna go back here and go back to the garment. If you want to use this in game, you should bring this guy to ZBrush and do a Z-remesher. That should be enough to reduce the poly count to whatever you want, but we're doing a high resolution render, so this is not gonna be needed. And yeah, oh, we could do this actually. If I want this to happen on the other side, we could copy and paste everything. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V to copy paste. Even it's quads already, we should still be able to operate it in whatever way we want, including simulation. So we could just do this real quick. Okay, you can hit F to frame it, of course. So I'm gonna put this guy over here so it's hanging there nicely. All right. And then I can do one more simulation. You can see that part will be simulated again, and I can grab this piece, have a copy, and move it there. I'm not sure if I can copy this guy actually, but let's give it some time to resolve that part. Okay, it's already calculating. That's good. Okay, I know this feels like a little bit heavy, but believe me, this is Mobile Designer is doing so much better than N-Class when it comes to this kind of like a simulation. So let's see if I can copy paste it. Maybe I can. or maybe I can't. Let me pause the video. Sorry, not pause the video, pause the simulation. Let's see, Control C, Control V. No, we can't. So I guess we just have to do it ourselves again by dragging a new one in. Okay, so I'm gonna go for File, Import OBJ, actually import add OBJ, and we're getting the curtain holder in one more time. Same setting as before, and we got a new one. And this new one then will be moved here and rotated. Okay, and then we can do this. We could of course just mirror it ourselves in Maya, but I think it's better to get asymmetrical results, so that's why I'm trying to do this again. Okay, all right, let me do one more simulation to start, and then I can just start dragging this guy. Okay, drag it in so that we're holding it also over there on the other side. All right, so that's gonna be the model. You can see even we convert it into our quads, it's able to simulate itself, so we can check the polygon. You can see, you know what, this one is still triangle, this one is quads. So we need to convert this one more time. No problem, let me do that real quick. So grab that, and that, and that, and that, all those four. We can right click and then quadrugulate real quick. Okay, let me pause the video. All right, now we have our models. We can go back here to the shaded mode, and that's what we have now. I can just go grab the garment that I really need, go for a file, and then export object selected or FBX. Either way, FBX will include everything, but object selected should allow me to just export those curtains. So I'm gonna call this guy curtain sim and then save it. Here we use weld and then thin layer, so that way they're just gonna be very thin layer of geometry. And then we object wise we select our patterns. That should be it. Yeah, and then unified UV coordinate, that's cool. Scale 8 centimeters and everything else is gonna be fine. So let's go ahead and hit OK, and that's gonna export the model out. And back here to Maya, let me delete this guy now, and we can go ahead and go for File, Import, and then we got our curtain holder, curtain sim actually in real quick. Okay, now you can see we have our curtain added to our environment. Okay, it's that simple. So now we have our curtain ready to go, and also you don't have to worry about the UVs. Oops, it should be there already. So let me go take a look. Modeling, UV editor. You can see we have our UV here. Okay, so for high-res render, you don't really worry about having to have the UV into the U1v1 space. Of course, you can manually do that. You can grab out the UVs. Let me turn off symmetry here. Okay, and we can do our own layout setting, layout UVs. Okay, let's try legacy this time and just reset settings because it's faster, right? And you can see that it's just done immediately, and we have our UV ready, and we can just start doing the texture and the rendering. Okay, so that's going to be an alternative modeling technique to create a nice looking curtain. All right, cool. So that's going to be the first technique I wanted to talk about to help you enhance your rendering. You can see this fabric is done exactly the same way. This one does have a better topology. That's actually when I grab this simulation I have here and then put it into ZBrush and did a zero measure. So that way you're getting a more reasonable topology. It's going to look better also in the game engine if you do that. All right, cool. So this is gonna be it for this video. Moving on to the next, we're gonna talk about this part, which is the this rock here on the bottom. I want to create fur on it. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do that in the next video.